Following the Second World War, the Third Reich's tank design has been praised for its innovation and excellence with regards to developing mighty weapons of war such as the Panther or the Tiger. Many people consider German tank design to be far superior to the Allies. However, the true fact is that over-engineering and a sheer inability to mass-produce tanks on a scale, like the Soviets with the T-34 and the Americans with the Sherman, cost Nazi Germany heavily. Another way in which German tank design is characterised and defined though, is through the creation of huge wonder weapons and monster vehicles such as the Maus. During the early period of the Second World War, and even during the 1930s, no super heavy vehicles existed, and there were simply no heavy tanks. However, things did change. Today we look at the proposed little brother of the Maus tank, the Panzerkampfwagen 7 Löwe or Lion. To support our channel, please make sure to subscribe. The German heavy tank development began in January 1936 with the approval of a 30-ton tank. Henschel was chosen to develop the chassis, however this initial project didn't go to plan. Different designs would tinker with the idea of a heavy tank, and different features would be placed upon the prospective vehicle. The importance of these earlier heavy vehicles is that the Germans were starting to think bigger with regards to the military, and also that the ideas of Blitzkrieg needed heavier tanks in order to attack more fortified areas and targets. This project would ultimately fail, however in 1941 the development of German super heavy tanks would begin, with industrial conglomerate Krupp starting to consider the use of the Soviet super heavy tanks. He studied these vehicles and from this established new specifications for a different class of vehicle. The new German heavy tank to be designed was to have at least 140mm thick frontal armour and 100mm on the sides. It must have a maximum speed of 44 km an hour, utilising a 1000 brake horsepower Daimler-Benz Marine engine. The new beast of a tank was to have a crew of 5, 3 of these were based in the turret and 2 would be in the hull. On board, the main armament was to be mounted in the turret, however incredibly Krupp estimated that the weight of this monster should be 90 tons. In early 1942, Krupp would be ordered by the German High Command to start the process of designing a new heavy tank, with the designation VK7201, known as the Panzerkampfwagen 7 Löwe or Lion. The design of this vehicle was based on previous projects by Krupp, such as the Tiger Maus, and would be created in competition with the rival manufacturer Porsche, who also presented new designs. The Lion was planned to be a replacement for the infamous Tiger I tank, which some deem today to be the greatest tank of the Second World War. The aim of this project was to combat the Soviet designs of the KV and IS series of heavy tanks that would go on to cause havoc amongst weaker and lighter German military vehicles. The Lion project would be started alongside the VK7001 project of the Tiger Maus, and the final design would aim to use as many components from the infamous King Tiger or Tiger II as possible. This would allow the production process to hopefully be simpler and more streamlined, as well as less parts needed to be created. The designers originally planned to build 2 different variants of the Lion. One of these would have been a more streamlined lighter variant, which would have had frontal armour protection of 100mm and would weigh in slightly lighter at 76 tons. The other variant, the Heavy Lion, would have 20mm thicker frontal armour as opposed to the light variant and would weigh in heavier at around 90 tons. If we compare this to other German vehicles, the Tiger I weighed in approximately 60 tons and the King Tiger would have a mass of around 70 tons, so the proposal for the Lion was to create a vehicle that was much heavier and bigger than the King Tiger. It's interesting to consider, if this would have been carried out, then how reliable this vehicle would have been when the King Tiger did suffer with crippling reliability issues due to its weight and size. Both of the variants would have been armed with the large 105mm L70 gun and fitted with a coaxial machine gun. This gun was absolutely colossal and would have been capable of blowing up any allied vehicle from a rather large distance. The gun would have been much larger and more devastating than the armament fitted on board the King Tiger, and was known to have been designed to be fitted in the turret, mounted centrally, and would look similar to the King Tiger. The projected maximum speed of the Lion would have been 23 km an hour for the heavier version and a slightly quicker 27 in the lighter version. So both the tanks were rather slow, however the heavier version would match the speed of an IS-2 and just be slightly slower than the KV-1, which it was aimed to rival. Adolf Hitler himself would order that the design of the lighter Lion was to be dropped in favour of the heavier tank. it would be redesigned in order to carry a 150mm L40 or 150mm L37 gun, which was even larger than the first initial designs. Its frontal armour was even upped in newer designs on the orders of Hitler, being changed to 140mm thick. To improve the performance, 900 to 1000mm wide tracks were to be used, and also the top speed would have been hopefully increased to around 30 km per hour. However, the Lion project would meet a rather abrupt end in late 1942, when it was cancelled in favour of developing the even more colossal Mouse. During the development of the King Tiger, designers were planning to build a redesigned version of the Lion, armed with an 88mm KWK L71 gun, and with 140mm of frontal armour. This again redesigned Lion would travel hopefully at 35 km an hour, but weigh in at the required 90 tonnes. Powered by an 800 brake horsepower Maybach engine, it would almost be 8 metres long, almost 4 metres wide, and over 3 metres high, and it was planned to eventually replace the King Tiger. During February to May 1942, 6 different designs were considered, with all the requirements being based on the Lion. On March 5, 1942, an order for a heavier tank would be placed which would ultimately stop the Lion, with in June 1942, work beginning on the even larger, heavier and more infamous Mouse. The Panzer VII Lion project would never get out of the prototype stage, however it would pave the way for one of the most notorious wonder weapons developed during the Third Reich, in the Mouse. It would act as the inspiration for the Mouse, however no Lions would ever see service or even make it completed out of the factories. It would have been extremely interesting to see if the Lion would have made it onto the battlefields. When a King Tiger was firing on all cylinders against a number of enemies, it was incredibly deadly. However, the Lion was much bigger and possessed a significantly larger armament and main cannon. Imagine if this beast would have been made and was coming towards a group of T-34s or Shermans. In the hands of the right crew, then chaos would have occurred in the Allied ranks. The Lion project certainly was an interesting wonder weapon that never left the drawing board. Once again, thanks for watching. We hope you enjoyed this video. To support our channel, please make sure to subscribe. And once again, thank you so much for watching.